Coaching is a massive responsibility. Coaching, you are here to ensure someone levels up, grows, experiences. But sometimes the best coaching happens in the moment. Sometimes the best coaching happens in the moment because the best time to learn is right then and there. And what it requires is us being a little courageous and brave enough to lean into that type of conversation and to start asking some questions. Right? So principle number 1 starts to say, focus on the performance versus the behavior. What does this mean? As people, we attack each other for the behavior first. Well, did you see what they did? Did you hear what they said? They've got an attitude. I love the word attitude. Love it. I'm like, what is an attitude? Please explain that to me. And yes, we get the actual literal definition for it, but I'm like, how did you see it walk across you in the meeting? Like when did that attitude thing pop up? Like, was there a moment in the conversation that you went, they've got an attitude? Or did you maybe walk in with that preconceived notion, that perception, that position? Remember I showed you the slide, people are capable and competent, there's possibility and options and all that stuff, right? I'm not walking into that interaction, I'm actually walking into that interaction a little more judgmental. There's a massive difference of pattern versus past. Pattern is a problem. Deal with the pattern. But again, it comes back to the behavior. Past is something different. When we spoke about too busy focusing on the future and worrying about the past, right? I'm not actually dealing with what I deal with in the moment. 9 out of 10 times when you move into these coaching dialogues, the answer is given to you within the first 5 minutes. Right? 90% of the time, these scenarios, these conversations, these performance discussions, these requirements, these objectives are 5-7 minute discussions. But we build it up to such a level that by the time we're approaching it, we're so twisted through child and parent that we're actually unable to communicate as the adult. Right? And again, perceptions are a massive problem to all of us. Before I have that conversation around collaboration, participation, being flexible, pivoting with certain clients, client engagement, customer service, relationship management, account management, I sit down with the personality and I go, what's sitting in front of me? This dude has no hope in hell of improving in customer service as long as I have that conversation with him. No human being wants to get up and do their job in what I just described. The only person that does that is someone who is struggling. Paul Robb is struggling. He doesn't come and say, Greg, manager, by the way, I'm struggling here. I'm having a really difficult time. I get hooked by people. You know, someone said this to me and it was a real difficult spot because that just hit me in my tummy and like it's a wound for me. If we did do that, we just might give our leaders and managers a fighting chance of counseling, coaching, helping, supporting, and leading. And the more we make the conversation about the performance, the thing, the it, the this, the more the people are able to depersonalize it. See, performance management is where it all goes wrong. Because we start the conversation with behavior. We don't start the conversation with performance. Just the 2 words, performance management, is what that sort of that oxymoron. It's just that conflict. We go in as like a little bit of a supervisor telling, right? And I don't know how to have the conversation about performance, so I have the conversation about behavior. Never goes well. That is the example of focusing on the behavior, not the performance. If let's say I'll use myself as the example. If my wife is saying to me, by the way, you know, you need to chill out or relax or calm down. She never says that, but if she did, right? She's given me no hope in hell of actually doing it. Particularly because I'm a 30 angry child, so, you know, once that rocket ship's going, it's going. Right? But she can trick my brain into adult very quickly by asking me about the objective, or about where we're going, or about what decision we need to make, or about what choice we want to make. So that's another example of that personal, right? The more we focus on the thing, the performance, the more the conversation drives to that. It's neutral. The most effective way to lead, to parent, to show up in a relationship is not the technical or the analytical skills that you've developed. It's your capacity to stop and pause this. It's the capacity and the ability to say, I see this in the moment. I could actually step outside and go, whoa, look at that. And here's the greatest way to do this. You mess it up. You snap. You react. You feel. You say, you respond. And what we should do with all of that stuff is ask ourselves a very simple question afterwards. Did it work? Did my delivery, my communication, my approach, my conversation, did it work? Did my feelings get acknowledged? Did my objective get reached? Did I create understanding? Did I deepen that relationship? Did I contribute for this relationship moving more effectively forward, not because of what I said, but because of what I did? The more you understand about yourself, what drives me? Who am I? Why do I think and feel the way I do? Why I respond the way I do? Why it's so hard that when I deal with that person, I get hooked? Why is it in this type of circumstance I end up becoming this? Is because I have 6 sides to my personality, and in those moments, back to the unconscious bias and the unconscious behavior, is what we do is we revert right back to that neurological pathway that's been sitting in my brain, allowing me to act and behave and communicate in that way for as long as I have. And what we talk about in neurological pathways is if you practice that behavior enough, if you think it enough, that neurological pathway becomes a neurological highway. So all the person has to do is physically show up in front of you and that emotion rises. All right? But there is a stage after this. And what we know is a percentage of marriages get there. And it's what is called a conscious relationship. You hit power struggles. How we communicate and navigate and understand the personality and understand my personality. If I'm able to do all of that, I could do something differently. And what we end up doing is we move to a conscious state of the relationship, which recreates romantic love. Right? If you've been married for 20 years, 15 years, 30 years, right? You go to some of your grandparents that have been married for 40 years and you say, what's the secret? They're going to say a few things. Don't go to bed angry, right? We've all heard that one. Make sure you still date, right? And if you just look at those 2 sayings, right? Don't go to bed in the power struggle, right? Navigate that and make sure you act and behave and do things in a way that contribute to you spending time together, the date. Now let's get out of the personal relationships and go to business. It's the same thing, guys. It's the same energy. Hey, I'm Greg Witz. Thanks so much for coming and checking out the video. If you like that video, you're going to love the next one. So I'd highly suggest that you click this video over here. And don't forget to subscribe and share.